Google is making me do this. You are first, the only winner. So you've decided to stack silver. Awesome. Welcome to the club. There are a lot of types of silver out there. And during this video, I hope to sort of recommend what you should stack for your first 50 ounces of silver. So why is it important that you actually stack silver in the first place? Well, if you don't know, there's been studies out there to determine that roughly 59% of United States adults don't even have a $1,000 emergency fund saved up. That means that in times of any sort of car maintenance or home repair or medical bill, borrowers have to go into debt, credit card debt or a loan, just to pay for a very simple minor emergency. Also, did you know that about 31% of American households have zero or less net worth? That's a negative net worth, meaning that your cumulative debts exceed your assets. So saving silver, I think, is a great way, especially for those of you that are just trying to get your first few dollars saved. You can scratch that itch of spending while also purchasing something. So why did I choose 50 ounces of silver as sort of my baseline starting stack? Well, pretty simple. Is 50 ounces at today's rate of $55 puts you at about $2,750. Now, if let's say silver were to fall back down to $30 and we're having a really bad bear market all of a sudden, you would still exceed that $1,000 minimum savings account that you could tap into in case of emergency. I prefer you have other cash lined up to handle emergencies, but if you don't, your silver is there. So what do I recommend that you stack for your first 50 ounces of silver? The determining factors here are kind of loose based on my own criteria, but I would say it's based on the premiums at the time of purchase, the premiums that you get back or don't get back when you go to sell, the demand for that type of silver at your local coin shop or on an online retailer, the easeability to stack it and store it safely, and the divisibility of it, because you can't have all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. You need to be able to divide it up amongst multiple different types so that if you only needed a little bit, you can get a little bit. If you need a lot, you can get a lot. The first type of silver I think that you should purchase, you should go out there and get yourself a nice generic 10-ounce bar. This is some of the items that I've got over the years between just buying whatever random 10-ounce bar that a bullion dealer or a local coin shop might have. You can get these pretty much anywhere, and they really don't carry that much of a premium. Right now, the premium is a little higher than spot, but oftentimes you can find deals where you can pick these bad boys up right at spot or just barely above spot, especially if you do the random design by their choice kind of situations, or you walk into a local coin shop and they've got a pile of 10-ounce bars that you can pick from. They're really close to the spot price. This will get you a pretty sizable portion of your stack, but I don't recommend getting too many of these. I would say one or two, or if you need to, get one 10-ounce bar and a couple smaller 5-ounce bars that you could then, again, easily divide it up so that you don't have to sell $500 if you only needed a couple $100. So maybe one 10-ounce bar and two 5-ounce bars, or just one 10-ounce bar, whatever you kind of feel like there. The second place I would go to after that is, quite honestly, as simple as it gets, is I would go and I would pick up 30 to 40 ounces of 1-ounce generic plain Jane rounds. It can be your Buffalo rounds, which are highly recognizable and easy to flip, or you could go with something like an online retailer's own minted coins, which again will be really close to that spot price, carrying very little premiums. That's probably your best bet for bang for your buck. Now, if you are concerned about wanting to have something that will stand the test of time and always be valuable and always be able to be sold, you could look into American Silver Eagles, such as these. They have a little bit more of a premium up front when you buy them, but they also typically demand a little bit higher premium than spot when you go to sell. You could also go to the Britannias, which I think are a really beautiful design coin as well. There's nothing like the American Silver Eagle, that size and that beauty, but these are nice as well. You could do the Canadian Maple Leaves, the Krugerrands. There's all sorts of different types that you could get that are pretty well known, but really at the end of the day, you're choosing between a low premium generic round, or you're choosing between a country's certified coin, so to speak, that will demand a little bit more, but will also cost you a little bit more up front. As simple as that may be, we've covered kind of where I would be. The reason for this is that you've got the large bar if you want to actually sell something because you have a large expense. You also have 1 ounce coins if you need to just get $50 to $100 here or there, right, to cover something, and then you could buy it back at a later date. It makes that divisibility easy. Also, these are almost always in demand. There's going to always be a market for you to resell these to in a pinch, on the fly, very quickly, and get your cash for them and go and take care of your emergency expense. There are, however, a bunch of things I do not recommend that you buy. And I think if you give me a moment, I'd like to go through those because it can save you some mistakes, some expenses, and also possibly even save you the chance of getting your money back for these in a pinch. I want to reiterate, this is not for your first 50 ounces, what I'm going to recommend now. If you want to buy these things after you've got your first 50 ounces because you need to scratch an itch or you want to experience a new type of silver, I get it. But bear with me. We're going through this. These are some items I would not buy for my first 50 ounces of silver. Coming in, number 1 at the charts is a kilo bar. While they are big and beautiful and heavy and, you know, there's something tantalizing, I guess, about them, the fact that you're going to have a significant portion of your stack in this in your first 50 ounces, I cannot recommend this. These are a little bit too much weight for one item because think about it. If you buy this and it takes up 60, 70% of your entire first 50 ounces, well, when you go to sell, you have the choice between either selling just a little bit of coins or selling almost your entire stack in one swoop. So I do not recommend a kilo bar. The other thing I do not recommend are graded coins. These carry premiums due to their numismatic value because they are a beautiful depiction of a coin. They also have a grading service fee attached to them. So these just come with a very high extra cost and premium, and you are not guaranteed to get that cost and premium back when you go to sell. And also the liquidity for it's going to be a little bit. Now you can walk into a local coin shop and say, I need to sell this. And you're most likely going to get the spot bullion weight price, or maybe a little bit more if the dealer thinks that they can sell your coin or flip it quickly. But most likely you're looking at this as raw weight when you go to sell, and the premium is there only when you buy. I also would not recommend that you pick up odd weighted rounds. The reason for this is just they're not going to be as interesting and quick to sell in times of refiner needs. We also saw liquidity issues with odd rounds and bars based on Elemental's post out there. There were other posts that I remember reading that said essentially that they were taking, primarily 10 ounce bars, 1 ounce bars, 1 ounce rounds, things of that nature. The very simple, easy to convert, easy to count items. But these odd shaped, 5 ounce bars and these like 1.25 ounce silver coins, while they are nice to hold and stack and enjoy, they were not the number one priority. And you're just not going to have as much liquidity or the ease to sell those items in the future. The same thing goes for oddly shaped bars, 2 ounce bars, 1.5 ounce bars, etc. Kind of the same story. Stick to your generic 10, 5, 1 ounce denominated weights and just go with those. Another thing that I would not actually recommend, which goes against kind of a lot of people's generic wisdom here, is I would not recommend 90%. Now, when we go to costs per ounce of metal, yes, these have a very low cost and you can get them at spot or even sometimes under spot when you go to buy these. However, the issue is that when you go to sell in times of a spike, we have seen that the refiners will cut out purchasing 90% silver. They will also cut out purchasing sterling silver because there is a time and cost associated with refining this into pure silver, which is what they need to sell to larger exchanges. So I do not recommend this in your first 50 ounces. Now, if you want to go and have fun with it like I do, after your first 50 ounces, by all means. But for that first initial stack, I cannot recommend 90% constitutional silver. The last thing I would say, I'm not going to have one to show you here, it would be decorative special novelty rounds and bars. You know, maybe you get Superman rounds or something else, you know, some Perth or Germanium mint, super classy special round. I do not recommend those for your first initial 50-ounce stack. Stick to that decorative stuff as a pick-me-up throughout your years of stacking if you ever need a little bit of excitement in your life here or there, but not for your first 50 ounces. I really hope that that was helpful for any of you new stackers out there that wanted to just see different types of silver, what kind of is a good baseline to start and what coins you think. If you disagreed with any of this, or you're a stacker and your 50 ounces you think could be kind of divided up in a better or different way, please leave comments and we'll all kind of grow and learn together. This was just my recommendation on what I've experienced over my last few years stacking silver and stacking metals, and I'm curious to hear what everybody else thinks. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, watching the show. Leave comments, like, subscribe, and if you know a new stacker out there that might be, get something from watching this video, please share it with them as well, and I'll catch you next time.